Bruno PC, proud to sponsor another season of Lake County High School sports broadcasts on WRLR 98.3 FM, helping home buyers, sellers, and others with real estate transactions. O'Keefe Lewis and Bruno PC can be reached at 847-675-4790.
You're listening to 98.3 FM, WRLR LP, Round Lake, Illinois.
Welcome on in to the Lake County Sports Scoop. I'm Rusty Silver. Sitting in with me today, we have the one, the only assistant coach from Carmel, Fidel Garcia. Carson is away, and I hate to say the word away, but he is away on vacation in Mexico City, which Fidel and myself are pretty jealous right about now, because it's much warmer there than it is here.
I'm not jealous. I actually kind of enjoyed our 50s and 60s, so he can have his 100-degree weather down there.
Well, yeah, that sounds pretty nice. But welcome on into Lake County Sports Scoop, and I appreciate stepping in, helping out for Carson, because normally I'm doing the sports corner on Saturdays with these other guys, you know, Don Johnson, Mike McCarthy, the fourth Peel that we call Bruce Becker joining with us over the last couple of weeks, because Mike was in Belfast, Ireland. But you know, I will say this, Fidel, this is a fun time of the year because you got all these holiday tournaments going on. And I know you were down in, Centralia, way down south in southern Illinois. But around here, it's just like, pick a school. Just drive around. Go everywhere. I mean, I did a lot of driving last week. You went further south than I did. But I saw at least about, 4 or 5 tournaments between boys and girls to see our outstanding talent of players that we have here in Lake County. And I'll tell you, it's pretty good basketball.
Yeah, I agree. I think out of all the classes in Lake County, this 21 class, which, you know, a lot of us have seen for a while now, I mean, this class is special. This is going to be a class in Lake County, the 2021, where you'll hear about these kids further down the line.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because we've had some outstanding talent in past years. I mean, I can bring back the Jalen Brunsons, Ben Bruss, a bunch of names. I remember the Ben Bruss era had 7 Division I players that went out to play D1 basketball. And there's going to be a big crop of players coming out in the next couple of years that's going to get a lot of Division I attention. We're starting to get notice of it right now in this area.
Yeah, I actually remember that 2008 class in Lake County. Right down the line, Lenzel Smith, Brandon Paul, Brust, Sawville was coming up, but there. I remember, if I recall correctly, there was 16 at one point kids that were either Division I or Division II or getting those kinds of looks. So it was a great time. That I think that talent spiked a little bit or continued to peak even into the Brunson years. And then there was a little bit of a dip, just a little bit, but now it's kind of circulating and working its way back.
You could throw out Admiral Schofield. He wasn't that bad either.
Well, he was in that kind of span from that 07, the Ceola Clark years into the Brunson years. I mean, there was tons of talent. I'm
trying to think of like Evan Boudreau played at Lake Forest. There's another guy,
Matt Volgrich. Remember him?
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys. We can keep naming these off.
Remember the kid that went to Loyola Marymount? I'm drawing a blank on his name. They had a point guard there that went to Loyola Marymount, and then ended up transferring to Illinois as a walk-on. Lascala over there at Lake Forest, he's not a stranger. They got a guy right now, lefty, the big lefty. He's playing at St. Joe's right now. Trying to blank on his name, Division I player. So, there's a lot of Lake Forest guys, Warren guys, Zion guys out there.
Libertyville,
really
Drew Peterson is playing at Rice. Even from the Brunson era, Connor Cashaw went to Rice as well before that. Stevens had theirs.
Smith's at Indiana.
Indiana, you're right. There's a lot of good players around the area. And if you got a chance to go out to some of these games, you'd enjoy it. Of course, I didn't get a chance to go down, which we're going to start, down in Collinsville. That's where Mundelein is playing. And right now, arguably, arguably, because some people can throw an argument out here to say, hey, Mundelein and Stevenson could be your best teams, but arguably right now, and yes, I'm going to throw the argument point out there, Mundelein could be considered the better team because they've won 3 straight games down there in Collinsville, and the way they played in beating, what was it, O'Fallon and
Lincoln,
who is a great 3A school that's going to state a few years. The Rail Splitters, by the way, if you didn't know their nickname. And I don't know if you knew that, but I knew that for some reason. But they won those 2 games on Saturday, and tonight they're going to take on host Collinsville. I really believe the way this team is playing, they're so well-rounded between Scotty Abube, Connor Enright, Jack Bickus, Trey Baker. Those 4 right there stand out that Coach Badgley has got this group playing some awfully good basketball, and the chemistry is something.
Well, here's what Mundelein has is on basically almost every night they have the 2 best players on the court. And then now to go along with that is, if you can stop or slow down those 2 other guys, well, they have 2 other guys that can give you 20. So as I said the last couple of weeks, there's multiple contributors on this team, and that's what makes them so dangerous. But they also I'm looking at the schedule. Every game they've played, they've had the 2 best players, and it's one of the reasons why they've been so dominant.
And I got to give credit to Scotty Abube. His mind has been in every single game that I've watched. I've heard. I'm looking at stats here. If you're playing big, and you are big like he is, there's nobody I know of, not even here in Lake County, that could stop the presence of Scotty Abube.
Yeah, what makes Scotty so special is he's got incredible size. So he's athletic, he's tall, he's got the measurables, but he's from waist down he's got some really good thickness and strength. And in the post, it's very difficult, especially at the high school level, to defend that because he's just able to anchor in so well and just get great position. And if you don't got a guy that can, we say displace. If you don't got a guy that can displace him early, get him off the block early, he's gonna be in position to make high percentage plays.
I know I got a chance to see him up front at the Zion Benton game on a Monday night just a couple weeks ago, and you got Amara Aguilar, who's awfully big. They don't match up against one another. We almost want to see both of these guys go at each other entirely, but I will say this, though. Zion really didn't have a way to stop them. As the same case that Mundelein didn't have a way to stop Amara Aguilar. You just got to take the other pieces around to try to stop. Maybe let Scotty have his baskets around the bucket to make you look good. But it's tough. I mean, there's a lot of pieces on the Mundelein team. If Connor Enright gets hot driving the ball to the basket or shooting from the outside, Trey Baker can give you that 3. He can also drive the basket. And, Bickus, he can hit a 3 at any time.
Well, here's the thing that with Mundelein is you can pressure them, but if they're able to handle it, and in all cases so far this year they've been able to handle it, they're going to be able to locate and find the open guy, and they got a lot of guys that can hit that shot. Mm-hmm. Now, to add or to speak to the Scotty thing is I've had an opportunity to see Scotty since he was in about kindergarten. And here's the one thing I can tell you about him is you may not believe this, he used to be a guard. Like he used to be a big guard. We used to think he was going to be a very big guard, but what he's been able to do is he has accepted his role, his God-given abilities of size and great touch and athletic ability, and it's really been what's made him so special about his game. He's a guy that you don't see very often, at least at the high school level, at that early of an age. I mean, he's a junior. Do the things that he's able to do. A lot of times the guys his size with his athletic ability, it takes a little bit of time. He's already got a lot of those tools already.
What is he, about 6'9", 6'10" at this point?
He's probably legit 6'8", but I wouldn't be surprised if he's 6'9", but he plays so much bigger because he's longer, he's very athletic, and he's very active. So he really does play like he's a 6'10" guy almost.
Thing is, you said you've seen him since kindergarten. When did he start dunking? Was it somewhere around 7th or 8th grade, or before that?
Well, if you remember his older brother, Chino, his older brother was dunking in 6th grade. It was his first time he dunked the ball, and his brother's 6'3". Scotty's been able to grow a lot more than that, but I would imagine probably in somewhere in the 7th or 8th grade range where he was able to dunk it. If you've seen him, he's. A lot of guys get out of the way because he'll put you on a poster.
You and myself, I'm out of the way even before I start thinking about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I used to tell his older brother when we'd be in open gyms, I'd tell him, don't ever dunk on me because I'm your coach, so you better not ever dunk on me. And he'd listen. So he'd dunk on everybody else, but he wouldn't dunk on me.
Well, we'll see what the Mustangs can do if they can dunk on Collinsville tonight, which the game starts at about, 7:30. And they've had to stay down there through the weekend. And you wonder, I'm sure they went through some practice yesterday and a little warm-up practice today. But how do you get your mind focused? How does Coach Badgley get them focused for a game like this tonight?
Well, here's the advantage of being down there is it's an opportunity for them to really bond as a team. I'm sure there's an itinerary that they're going to keep to, a schedule that they're going to keep to. I'm sure there's going to be someone that's going to allow them to use a gym for a practice or a shoot around. But I think it's a really great opportunity for them to build a little bit of team bonding, and I think that really plays into later in the season when they're in tough situations, and really they've been in a lot of tough situations already, a lot of close games, a few overtimes already, and they've figured out a way to pull through and win.
They've had a lot of adversity, and right now a team that's unbeaten, 13-0 at this point,
Yep.
Leading the leading the North Suburban Conference. And by the way, another team that's leading the North Suburban Conference is Stevenson Patriots,
Yep.
who went to Hinsdale Central. And I got a chance to see 3 of the 4 games this past week. And I must admit, it was not your typical Stevenson Patriot team. I did see them beating a very impressive Oswego East team that was 8-3. Talked to the coach from Oswego East, found out, they played some good competition. However, Stevenson's defense leads them in most of these games. However, I was a little concerned at what I saw with their outside shooting ability. They had some issues, especially against Homewood Flossmoor, where they were 6 of 24 from three-point range. They hit a few in the third quarter. They fell behind late in that game and couldn't recover. But they did have a 12-5 lead in the first quarter, and part of that had to do with some foul problems, because R.J. Holmes got into foul trouble, and there was a little discrepancy of fouls. It was 14-5 by game's end. Only 5 fouls called against Homewood Flossmoor. You don't want to talk about refereeing in this case, but then again, that could have made a difference in the game. But you got to make shots, you got to make baskets. You know that, Fidel. The game goes on your own hands, not the referees. You got to play basketball as a team out there if you're going to win the games. And I know in their game in the semifinals, which they lost to Homewood Flossmoor, they had a tough time with that. They couldn't play the game that they wanted, all the way down to the finish. But maybe it's something they learned from. Losing a game like that, you kind of wake up and say, okay, now we've got to figure out what we got to do better against some quality teams that you play. And I certainly know that Pat Ambrose, who's been around as a longtime coach on his 21st year, has grown to realize this, that, losses are good. You can learn from that and move on.
Yeah, well, just looking at the body of work in their schedule, they've played 9 really, really competitive Chicagoland area teams, and they've beaten 5 of those. 6 of those teams. So, the schedule is very tough. This is typical of a Stevenson schedule, and there's high expectations for these guys, not just from the outsiders, but really also from within. And I think Stevenson's done just as good a job as anyone in the county in delivering on that.
And they also lost to Marion Catholic for the third place game. And I guess we have R.J. Holmes on the line. How you doing, R.J.?
I'm good, and you?
Doing great. We got Fidel Garcia, the assistant coach from Carmel. You know me, Rusty Silver here, since I do some coverage with the Daily Herald as well. RJ, we're talking about the Hinsdale Central tournament at the moment. What was your thoughts about the tournament itself?
I thought it was a great tournament. A lot of people, a lot of great teams, a lot of great players, a lot of good competition. I think that we put well. A lot of things to learn, a lot of ways to grow.
Hey, RJ, real quick, I just want to congratulate you on your commitment to MIT. I know that. Are you
committed?
Are you not? Okay, but are you strongly? I know I read in the newspaper that. Is that somewhere you're thinking about?
I actually didn't get into MIT, so I can't go there.
Okay, well, here's what I do know is I know you're a high, high character kid, a high academic kid, and I know you'll end up going somewhere. But just quickly, if you can talk about this year so far, this season, you guys have come out pretty strong, Is there anything that sticks out about this team, maybe this season that's different from last season?
I think about this team, and I see a lot of different players that have a lot more experience. I know last year we were a lot of juniors, and we didn't have as much experience, but we did have the talent. And I think that this year, because of the fact that we all played last year, we were able to bring a lot more experience to the game, and we're able to bring a lot of chemistry, especially because we all have been playing together for so long.
RJ, experience means so much when you look at your team and what you guys not only accomplished last year and going to the super sectional, maybe a shot away from going to state there. How much has that been put into the game plan this year? Maybe you're hungry, or maybe you're looking at bigger things to come this year.
Yeah, we've been. I think that last year we had that mentality of just one game at a time, and this year we kind of know more of the big picture of what's going on, and we're learning a lot, and we learned a lot last year. And I think that we got a chip on our shoulder, especially because we didn't go as far as we wanted to last year. And now we know what it takes to, make it to that next level because of the fact that we played last year, and we just got to execute. And I think that we've been doing that so far.
Mm-hmm. I know execution's a big thing, and as you know, I was out watching your games at Hinsdale Central. You got a nice win over Glenbrook North. They hit some threes on you early. I like the donut hole that you guys put on Glenbrook North in the second quarter, holding them to nothing. I thought that was impressive, for your defense. But shooting the basketball and hitting the threes, that's the one thing that hits my mind. I know that's not your job, but what's been the talk around the team? Because you guys were really struggling, it seemed like, from beyond the arc during all four of those games last week.
Yeah, so, we've been really trying to figure out ways to score, especially not from just the three, running plays and getting each other open and creating shots going to the rim is something that we've been working on. It's something that we've grown a little bit at. I know for me, getting to the basket is something I'm good at, and that's something I bring to the team. Offensively and defensively, we try and bring those two together and try to bridge the gap by playing, really strong defense. So even if we aren't shooting as well as we want to, our defense can still keep us in the game and, get us better.
RJ, last year, you guys won conference. Arguably maybe Waukegan might have been, quote unquote, the favorite, but you guys were able to again win conference. And then now here this year again, you guys came in, you were kind of a little bit of the favorite, and now we're at a point where a lot of people are saying, well, maybe Mundelein, and you got the rankings, and the rankings say, they're higher than you. What is it about what you guys do that every single year you're either winning conference, you're competing for conference? Is there something specific, or is it just kind of the mentality, the expectation for the program?
We got a chip on our shoulder, and when rankings come out like that, it really digs to us because we know as a program we work really hard, and we work on the mental game aspect not as much. I wouldn't say not as much, but we work on the mental game almost just as much as we do on the physical game, and I think that's really what brings us to that next level every single year because of the fact that even though our talent might switch up every year as to, what pieces we have, we always bring that mental, toughness and that mental game to the game. And, we've gotten really good at it, and we've gotten really good at teaching and making a good program and good culture. And, I think that this year we've really done a really good job at creating that culture to be able to be successful in the conference this year.
January 10th is coming up, and I know there's a little bit of a stretch. I imagine Coach will probably let you guys maybe rest up for a couple days, and then you guys will get back to preparing for January 10th against Mundelein. Maybe just a little insight on you don't have to spill or tip the hat, but what's going to go into preparing for you guys in that game, knowing how important that game is going to be.
Yeah. We're just going to be so mentally prepared. Know that we've got a lot of hype going around this game, but we really tried to stay grounded and play our game and play the way that we do. We do have a break, but a lot of us are going to be still working, getting better, and I think that's going to really help us in our game on the 10th.
Mm-hmm. Hey, RJ, just one more question. I know that 10th is probably circled on your calendar, but is that game better to be in Stevenson Sports Center Wood in your place than playing it in Mundelein for the first time around?
I think it's great that we get to play it at Stevenson, but I don't think that it matters where we are. I think that our defense travels, and I think that our culture travels. So our game is not going to change whether or not we play it at Mundelein or at Stevenson. But it's great to be able to play it at home and have our crowd with us and our student section and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask this: are you excited about this game?
I'm definitely excited about this game. I'm hyped. I'm so ready for this game.
Are we gonna get some?
It's definitely circled on my calendar.
Are we gonna get that Marion Central baseline kind of dunk or what?
Maybe. We'll
Yeah,
see.
Rusty, have you seen that?
I know if I've seen RJ do. I've seen him do the
on Twitter.
dunks.
It's
I'm not
pretty
sure what his
impressive.
favorite dunk is, but
Well, let's just say this: he had that dunk, and Marion Central or Marion Catholic got out of that zone real quick.
I didn't see that because I wasn't at that final game. But I heard it. You're right. I did see that actually on video. I did catch that. Yeah. You're right. So.
RJ, I just want to say you've done a great job. You're going to land somewhere great. It's pretty obvious, and you're going to, some coach is going to be real lucky to get you. So, hey, keep working. I'm rooting for you, and I'll be, keeping an eye on that game on the 10th. But best of luck and keep working hard. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, RJ, have a happy New Year and a safe one, and we'll see you on the 10th because I'll be out there for that game too for our station.
All right, sounds good. Have a happy New Year.
All right, take care.
All right, take it easy.
RJ Holmes, the outstanding. I don't know. We call him. Do we call him? 4 or 5? Because I know Kazakov is more like a 4 because he goes outside more.
I think when he gets to the college level, he's going to be a guy that'll be more of a wing. He'll be a guy that can guard multiple positions on the defensive end, but there's just not too many guys at the high school level that can do what he can do, and it brings a great dynamic to that Stevenson team.
Speaking of dynamic, I like dynamics. So you bring up a great segues. I love that. That's good. It's good to work from here, Fidel. But you were down in Centralia.
Correct.
Which how far is that from this area? Help me out.
Well, it depends. How fast you drive, but typically about 4 hours.
About 4 hour
yeah.
trip. You went down there, and Carmel's done this for a few years, going down to this tournament, haven't they?
We've done it this is our 3rd year, and we're hoping it's something that beyond when Coach Ryan or even me or whoever's there leaves, that the Carmel basketball program can continue to go down there.
Yeah, a lot of good talent, a lot of good teams there. Tell us what happened with Carmel over this last week.
Well, we prepared over the week for a really tough challenge in the Champaign Central team that we played in the first game of the tournament. We were able to win. It was a really great experience for the guys as usual. The venue down there is incredible. It's just a different type of a tournament that you don't really see very often anywhere in the country maybe. So it's a community that all comes out and supports the event. And if I can describe the gym, it's like being down at Bloomington. I mean, that's exactly almost how they set it up. It looks like Assembly Hall, almost like the New Age Assembly Hall. So it's just an incredible venue. It's well run from top to bottom, from the media to the fans to the people that are hosting to the teams. It's just such an incredible home kind of a feeling that's something that's special. I think it's something that we're really happy that we're able to bring our kids down and enjoy.
Let me ask this: how do your kids accept going down there? I know it's a bonding type of feeling there, but how do they accept it? How do they grow into the fact of all this tradition and learning about what life is like down in Centralia compared to being up here?
Well, maybe this is me being a little candid, but the food's bad down there, by the way. It has nothing to do with the people in Centralia. The food actually at the hospitality is unbelievable because it's home cooked. But honestly, that is the only thing down there that I think is bad. Is there's probably not a good meal you can get down there, but everything else is incredible. The people are gracious. They're humble. They're warm. They're welcoming. But in terms of us, it's a great opportunity for us to go down there. Like you said, team bond, but you're also playing high-level competition teams. And we've been able to go down, and Evanston is down there. Belleville West, the team that's won the state championship the last 2 years. There's just you get a different style of play down there, and it's not necessarily any worse or any better, but it's no doubt second to none. It's one of the best tournaments in the state.
And you had to play Evanston and Belleville West,
Correct.
2 games in a
Correct.
row. And I'm sure, even though you didn't win those games, you had to learn something from those 2 teams.
Absolutely. Your only way you're going to get better is you got to play the best, and that's one of the other reasons why we go down there. Is we want to play the best. No disrespect to some of the other tournaments, but there's some that we could get into that would be easier for us, and we'd make a championship and maybe win it. But we want to be a part of something special, and that's what Centralia has given us, that opportunity, is to play in something that's special.
Yeah, a very special type of tournament. And what did you see out of your players that kind of was something positive? I mean, you've got a lot of good players, Kamari Wilson and a few other players this year. We had a chance to see your group on a game that we did against Waukegan a few weeks back. But what did you see out of your players that kind of stood out to give you something positive that you can look towards the new year here ahead of us?
Well, for the first time in our game against Centralia, in our game against Champaign Central, we were fully healthy. We had everybody ready to go. We had, Bryce was back. Usma Harper was back. Chemo missed a while being sick. So we for the first time we were with all our guys. And so it really kind of gave us an opportunity to have an idea of what the season can potentially look like. And, we saw a lot of good things, and there were some things that we need to work on. But, I think the most positive thing we took out of it is I think we came out a little bit closer, and that was indicative in just today's practice. I thought we had a really good practice. And so when you play against really good competition, you find out what you're kind of made out of. And you're either gonna let's get better, or you're not. And I think we've taken the right steps to get to where we want to be at.
A question that comes to my mind here is similar to what's going on to a couple teams. Warren, Deerfield had football players, and it takes some time to get on the court to play basketball, not play football. And the referees are very tough on these players, because you can do a lot on a football field that you can't do on a basketball court. The pushing, the shoulders, the elbows, maybe the hands even. But you've got a couple football players there on your team. And with Usma Harper coming back from his football injury, is he getting acclimated? Is it taking a little bit longer for him to get a feeling to be on the court right now?
Well, the one thing about Usma is he's played basketball a long time, and so I think the whole process of him going from transitioning to football to basketball, back to football to basketball, he's used to that already. And so, it takes him a couple days to kind of get acclimated, maybe a week or two, and then he's kind of, he's in stride. And so I think he's starting to get really in stride. He's starting to play a lot better, but he's a guy that's always played basketball. And so I think the difference would be with the Warren guys is I don't know if they necessarily are guys that play year round like that. AAU ball, stuff like that. Usma's played AAU ball. Kamari, who plays football too, plays high level AAU ball. Bryce, who plays football. A couple other guys play football. They've played AAU. They play basketball year round, and football is they're used to that transition between both sports.
All right, guess what? We've hit a break. Coach, assistant coach, we've hit a break right now, which means we got to take a break, come back. We got a lot more to talk about with these holiday tournaments.
Yeah, well, remember, we got to touch every team, and we're going to do that. We're going to get it in.
We'll get it all. I got a list that goes on belief here. You wouldn't believe that. So we need to take a break. Be careful if you're out driving along the roads. Some snow tonight could cause some slippery spots. I'm not used to saying this. It's been too warm around here. But hey, Happy New Year to everybody. Be safe and healthy. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more of the Lake County Sports Scoop right after this.
You're listening to 98.3 FM, WRLR LP, Round Lake, Illinois.
WRLR is community radio.
I feel much more informed with what's happening today.
When we say community, we really mean it.
It's not like corporate, and it's just a good station, you know?
We don't belong to some large corporation that makes a profit from this station.
Because I like the diversity.
And listeners won't be forced to listen to large blocks of advertising. Operations at community radio stations are made possible through grants and underwriting from companies within this area of operation. And donations, funds, and equipment, services, and time from area residents who volunteer their time to get involved.
It's as if it's my next door neighbor talking to me, only he's on the radio instead of next door to me.
Real people just like you.
I like them. They tell it like it is.
Local focus, local news, local music, of the local people, and by the local people.
It's different than the rest of the stuff I hear.
I love the show. I listen every day.
WRLR.
Chicago legendary blues artist John Primer will be in Lake County on New Year's Eve. John Primer and the Real Deal Blues Band, a two-time Grammy-nominated blues soul band, will be performing at the New Year's Eve Blues Party on December 31st at Doctor's North Restaurant and Lounge in Antioch. An optional all-you-can-eat buffet dinner with soup and salad bar will be available from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. John Primer and the Real Deal Blues Band will be performing from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. to ring in the new year. So for reservations and more information, call now at 847-838-8597 or go to www.dockersnorth.com. WRLR sports programming is made possible in part through the support of Jersey Mike's in Round Lake Beach. Jersey Mike's serves authentic Northeastern-style sub sandwiches that are fresh sliced and fresh grilled. Their menu offers items for students and teachers like the Giant Sub. Complete menu details available now at jerseymikes.com. If your sports team or organization is looking to raise funds, Jersey Mike's in Round Lake Beach can tell you how. They're located at 536 East Rollins Road, and their number is 224-757-5391.
When I'm under, I'm weightless, floating away, and all I think about is doing it again.
Michael Swan is under the influence of his volunteer swim coach. Spending a little time coaching, he helps Michael stay off drugs. Be a coach, a mentor, a volunteer. No matter what it is, you have something to offer. Log on to helpyourcommunity.org or call 877-KIDS-313 and be an influence on the kids in your community. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Having trouble moving the ball to finish your divorce or paternity matter? Child support or maintenance payments causing trouble with your salary cap? Sue Kamen is an experienced family law attorney who can coach you through mediation or fire a pass into the end zone at trial. To make an appointment in Antioch, Huntley, or Lake Zurich with Susan E. Kamen and Associates, their number is 847-847-7354.
WRLR 98.3 FM.
Welcome back to the Lake County Sports Scoop for a Monday afternoon. Rusty Silver filling in for that guy by the name of Carson who's on vacation in Mexico City. You could tell I'm a little jealous when I say this. Also, we got the assistant coach from Carmel, and that's Fidel Garcia. And Fidel, we're not feeling very sorry at all, are we, for Mr. Carson for missing this week?
No, because the weather here, as I said, except for today. But listen, I'm a Chicagoan, and I'm not going to complain because we've had some great weather, and I'm not going to let one windy kind of icy day ruin that. So,
have you ever been down to Mexico City at all?
I have, and I told this to Carson. He didn't believe me. I almost got kidnapped. I was a little kid, so maybe we shouldn't talk about it.
Oh, wow. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, true story. True story.
There are stories like that come out of Mexico. I've heard that before, but I've never been down there. I've been kind of down to Arizona, near the border, but that's about it. About as close I've gotten. It's
an extremely heavily populated city, and you can see how you can get lost in translation down there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I never had a chance. Of course, I ran away to Hawaii over the summer. I mean, that sounds a little more balmy out there.
Must be nice.
Well, yeah, but I'll say this. Hawaii, believe it or not, if you look at it on the map, that's at the same level of Mexico City. That's close to the equator.
Oh, yeah, and but is it as low as Mexico City?
Yeah, it depends if you're in the mountains or not, but I know Mexico City is more on the higher end elevation-wise.
Okay.
So, but in Hawaii, you can get yourself up to that part, depending on which island you're on, because there's like 8 different islands out there.
Yeah, well, I don't think Carson's thinking about any of that stuff. He's probably just hitting up some local cantinas and trying to watch a ball game or something like that.
He's trying to pay attention to what's going on around here. Are you kidding? He may be away, but he's not that far away.
Carson, enjoy Mexico City. Don't worry about us. We're all right.
Let's get back to the terms because there's a lot to talk about here. A lot of tournaments. And one thing I want to say is Zion Benton, and we gave a little kudos to them a little bit earlier, but Zion Benton, which I had a chance to see a couple weeks ago against Mundelein, but they took on a path here to take on teams from Proviso West. Now, Proviso West is a very prestigious tournament. I mean, you can go there and see, my goodness, the history of players that played in this tournament going back to the 70s. It's incredible. Now, that's changed a little bit in recent years. You don't have as much of the great teams because some have left and gone to Hinsdale Central now, and some have gone out to the Jack Tosh tournament, which is the only tournament these days that have 32 teams instead of 16. But Proviso West is a tough tournament. You still got some good teams. And I got to give credit to Bob Worthington to take his team out there and still have a good showing. He made it to the semifinals. They won their first two games before they lost their next two. So give credit because his boys, and they're good. They're a good team. Depending on composure, they're a good team, and they're a team to watch for in the North Suburban in the coming weeks.
Yeah, they won a first game against DuSable, I want to say. No, sorry, was it DuSable? They won Phillips. They won a first game against Phillips. They won their second game, and then they lost a tough one to Bogan, who's a top 5 team in the state. Probably the favorite to win state for their class. And then they played in the third place game against a very talented Fenwick team that's got a guy going to Louisville, another Division I player. And they lost on the buzzer. Their best player, Hopkins, hit a three-pointer at the top of the key at the buzzer to beat them. So, yeah, I agree with you. This is a good Zion team, very talented, very athletic. And if they can get you to play in their style and their tempo, they're dangerous. And let me add, they're exciting to watch, too.
They can be exciting. The big thing is composure. Can they handle the basketball at the critical times of the game where they can win those games?
And they've struggled because teams like Stevenson and the ones that have beaten them, they've been able to be a little bit more composed, as you said, when that tempo or that game plan changes, and they've been able to handle, guys like the Stevenson guys, they can handle the fast pace, but at the end of the day, they're gonna change that game into how they want you to play, and that's where they're gonna beat you.
All right, down at Pontiac, another prestigious tournament. I mean, this has been around for a long time, and some of these tournaments downstate have been around. And Warren has gone down there for a long time. And I got to give credit because they opened up the tournament. This is totally unexpected. They beat a Peoria Manual team 54-45. And Sean Melican had a great game in there. What was it, 18 points, about 7 or 8 rebounds. Everything just came together. Maybe they had a good practice going down to Warren or going down to Pontiac. And unfortunately, they lost to Oak Park and Bennett right after that. And those are great teams to go against.
Yeah, Warren's always going to play a tough schedule. This Pontiac tournament is arguably the best tournament in the Christmas time in the state. And I think the one thing Warren can do is what Coach and I at Carmel, we call it muck. They can muck up a game a little bit with that zone, and they can kind of get you out of your element. Mm-hmm. And they got some players that can play. They're going to play physical and they're going to play smart. They're well coached. They're going to play defense, but they got that kind of that muck element that they can. They'll go out and just like they did, they beat a Peoria Manual team, and it was a very impressive win. They played Bennett a little bit tough the next game, and then they lost to a real athletic Oak Park River Forest game in a game that was, I think, by 9 points. So let's see. Again, let's give these guys a little more time. Let's see how they, once their football guys seem to be settling in, and let's see how they fare in conference.
Yeah, they're 4-8 right now, but I got a feeling they're going to win some more
that'll
games.
Change.
Yeah, it's going to get better. They're going to be around 500 or so before the end of the season. Over at the Jack Tosh tournament at York, this is interesting because I'm keeping an eye on Highland Park, and a lot of people say, why Highland Park? This Highland Park team, believe it or not, they're playing their final game today. They played St. Ignatius at noon. We haven't got a final on that, but they're 8-3 right now. But they've been able to beat some good teams to this point. And a lot of people say, what do they got going good there? And I've talked to a couple people about that over the holiday break that know about Highland Park. They've got some shooters. They can score, and they play some awfully good defense. Paul Harris, Fidel, is a guy that is a mastermind on defense. If you think of the Warren teams, or you think some other teams in the county with Pat Ambrose, here's a guy that's gotten teams to the sectional. It's been a long time since he's gotten a team downstate, but I'll tell you one thing. Here's a team, if they keep playing the way they're playing right now, he may make another run into the sectional. It's a possibility.
Well, this is a great segue with the Warren and me talking about Muck is here's what they do is they play this 1-2-2 matchup zone, and they're very, very effective. Mm-hmm. And here's why they're effective. They have their kids playing this style at the junior high level, and so there's every year they're getting better and better and better. And the one thing about high school basketball is passing ability is down, shooting ability is down, and so he's really found a niche, and his program has really been successful because he's been able to have kids that are going to buy into their defensive style, and then offensively, he's always going to have guys that are going to be disciplined. So this is a maybe not necessarily a highly talented Highland Park team, but this is a Highland Park team that's really running the system really well of Coach Harris, and they're really disciplined, and they're not too bad either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not bad. Also playing at Jack Tosh at Lake Forest. They lost their opening game. They've won their next couple games, and now tonight they're taking on Palatine this evening. And by the way, their final games are tomorrow. Both Highland Park and Lake Forest on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that tournament's really kind of stretched out. But what I really like about Lake Forest is they've really been playing some pretty good basketball, and they've beaten some pretty good teams too. But here's the thing I'm really excited about is they got this freshman kid who's 6'4", Mr. Thomas.
Asa Thomas, yes.
Listen, he's got a chance. I mean, he's arguably their best player. He's their best scorer right now.
The one thing I like about Asa Thomas, I saw him in the game that we did against Warren a couple Fridays ago, and I'll tell you, he had played a role that impressed me for a freshman. He was not afraid of the football players. He weaved through the football players to get to the basket. And I remember asking him after the game, are you worried about these football players on the court? He said, no, I just play my game. He just has this ability to find the basket and put shots up like it's nothing.
He's going to be a 2,000-point scorer, barring an injury or something, knock on wood. Luckily for me, I had an opportunity to see him as an 8th grader, and I knew instantly that Lake Forest had somebody special. And the one thing I'll tell, he already knows about is he's special in himself, but he's gonna get coached by a guy that's pretty special too. And so you got a great combination of great coaching, great special talent, and La Scala has done an incredible job of turning those guys into winners and into great players.
All right, over to Wheeling, the Wheeling Hardwood Classic. By the way, they have a nice hospitality room if you ever get a chance to go there. It's good food.
Well, listen, I'll put it up against Centralia any day because, it's a little southern mix to it too. So,
all right.
But I hear you.
Libertyville ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw. They lost to Maine West 63-55. Also lost to Prospect, but they beat Frem 55-48
that's a really good
in
win
overtime.
For them.
So they've won a few games. They lost a few there, 8-4 record right now. I expected more, I think, out of Libertyville, but I think they're still trying to get their wheels back. I know Blake was sick with pneumonia a couple weeks ago. This team, in my eyes, is still coming together and trying to find a little more confidence in their game. And I think they're going to find it, and they're going to be a team that's going to be on the higher end of this North Suburban Conference race before we're done.
Yeah, I agree with that. But they really don't have a bad loss, and they have a couple pretty good wins. I think their win against St. Viator was really good. I think their win against Fremd is a very good win. Their few losses are to Stevenson, Evanston, Maine West, and again, the second time they played Prospect, they lost to them. But yeah, I agree. This is a good Stevenson team. Sorry, a good Libertyville team that goes about 8 deep. And here's something that you may not know, but they're going to play Champaign Central on the 4th. So I know Coach was in contact with Coach Z over there. That's kind of an interesting little thing. Carmel down the street plays them down in Centralia, and then a week later, Libertyville, they come up to Libertyville and play them. So I don't know. Maybe I go catch out the game. You should go catch the game. They got a guy, Mr. Terry, who I can already promise you he's going to have about 5 dunks, and you're going to be
that'll be interesting.
Back, standing up in your seat.
Yeah, it just sounds like a lot of fun. Also at Wheeling, Waukegan had a tough time. Really some tough losses. They lost to Niles North, really good team. Buffalo Grove, Ridgewood, and Elgin. So Waukegan with only 1 win on the season, 1-13. I really thought they could get a couple wins out of the Wheeling Harwood Classic. Still coming together. Hopefully the new year can start out something new for Ron Ashlaw and this young group.
Yeah, and here's another thing. Ron Ashlaw has said, you know what, we're going to play a tough schedule either way, even though we're going to be a little bit down. A lot of coaches would take a different route and play a little bit easier schedule, so you pad the stats a little bit, but Ron isn't doing that. And I've told this to Carson, but just from what I've seen with Ron's coaching this year, is this can be, and I've had this, I've seen this before, is this can be his best coaching year, and you'll never know it, because of the record. But I think he's a guy that's going to continue to coach those guys at a high level, and he's going to get the most out of them.
Mm-hmm. Deerfield, by the way, went 2-2 over the week. They're 6-5 right now. And I also had a conversation with somebody about Deerfield over the week, and the problem is that they're missing a point guard, someone that can lead this team. You got good players with Mattingly and Lieb in the post, but you need someone to be directing. You need someone to take over the game, up in the guard spot. And they're missing that right now. They just don't have a pure leader to lead that team like they did, like a Cassiri over the last few years and a couple other players they had at Deerfield.
Yeah, the scouting report is out. If you can crack them with your pressure, and if you can really bother them, they're going to struggle to get the ball up the court, and that's just going to they're going to struggle in a flow of an offense. But they are talented, and if they can handle the pressure, if they can get you to play in their style, which is a little bit more of a half court, a little more meticulous. They got the Mattingly kid who's 6'7". They got another, a kid that's every bit of 6'11", and Lieb. But if those guys are able to kind of, get a lot of touches and get high percentage shots, they can beat anybody. I mean, they have some real deal size. It's 6'11", 6'7", and then the other guy is 6'4", 6'4". But you got to be able to crack them with your guard pressure.
All right. Also, I want to mention Notre Dame beat Glenbrook South 49-44 in the championship. Why do I mention that? Because Notre Dame's going 3A, but Glenbrook South is going to be in a battle with Evanston. And one of those two teams, and most likely, unless you talk about Loyola, could be a third team in the mix that could be playing one of our teams in the super sectional by the time we talk about March. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, that is a heavy possibility. I think Evanston is the team that you'll probably end up seeing. But yeah, like that Glenbrook South team in the past has been able to beat this Evanston team. And it'll be very interesting to see what
he's been
happens.
touted as maybe one of the best area players out of the Chicago papers.
You're talking about Don Martinelli? Yeah.
So.
He's a fantastic high school player. I think he's a player that a lot of coaches at the Division I level are going to overlook because of his size, but he can play, man. He can really do a lot of things out there.
All right, let's move on to the other tournament. At Pekin, Lake Zurich, 5-7, went 2-2 on the week. They lost the consolation final to Moline, 37-29. I was interested in that score only because Munderline's going to play Moline at the United Center at the end of February.
Well, you want me to give you the inside story on that?
Go for it. You got it.
Okay, so do you know who the athletic director at Moline is?
It was a former athletic director at Lake Zurich, wasn't it?
It's a gentleman by the name of Dick Kennard.
Or not I stand corrected. I mean, Munderline. Yeah.
Dick Kennard. So you already know a guy like Dick Kennard he's up to his getting back into the Lake County mix. So he's got. I mean, you may say, oh, maybe it's a coincidence, but you just said it. They're playing Munderline. They're going to play Carmel, and they've played Lake Zurich. So you kind of got an idea of why that's happening. But yeah, that's a Moline team that they play in a venue that is one of a kind. Bob Cousy actually played there back in the day, the Wharton Fieldhouse. And again, this is we're excited because here we're going to go from Centralia down to Moline and get an opportunity to play in one of the best venues in the state of Illinois.
Wait a minute, hold on. You got to rephrase it. You're not going down to Moline. You're going over.
Right. Over.
Yeah, over
correct.
because it's west.
Absolutely over.
We got to help you in your directions.
I know. Well, you know how us Chicago guys are. We think we're the only things that exist in the world.
I don't know. I call this an average tournament because this Maine East tournament was just started up this last year or maybe the year before, and I got a chance to go over there to see Lakes take on Maine East. Unfortunately, Lakes wasn't together that game, but they've been able to take 2 out of 3 games so far. And they're taking on Leiden as we speak at the moment. Their record is 5-7. Vernon Hills was taking on Addison Trail this afternoon. They went 1-2, and they're 7-7 right now. But both of these teams are trying to find their legs. They're trying to find combination are going to work. I mean, we saw Lakes against Grays Lake Central a couple weeks ago, and they beat them 36-30 with some great defense in that game, holding Grays Lake Central without a 3-point shot. Mm-hmm. But I see both of these teams trying to find something of a niche. I know Vernon Hills is hurting because they've lost a couple of their players due to injuries.
Well, we play Lakes, and the one thing you're going to have to do when you're guarding Lakes is you're going to have to defend their screen and roll action that they do. And if you can't, they're going to be able to have a good night on you offensively. But they're going to be tough defensively. They're still missing their best player. I hope he can come back after we play him. But this is a team in Lakes that, as you said, it doesn't appear to be 100% yet. So you're what we see at the end of the year may be a lot different than what we're seeing right now.
I got some athletes out there. I like the fact that Sanders.
Yeah, the QB plays too, doesn't he?
Well, he's been out with a concussion.
Oh, okay.
Selig's been out with a concussion, but Sanders, believe it or not, that's the grandson of Max Sanders. We found that out a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
In fact, we saw Max out there, 78 years young. Looks pretty good from the great days of coaching for 20 years over at Libertyville High School. So it was good to see him. He actually came up to Don Johnson and myself after we did the broadcast. Mm-hmm. And his grandson went over there and made 5 or 6 free throws to seal the game.
Really?
So that was impressive just a couple of weeks ago. At Jacobs, which is a nice tournament out there, Grays Lake Central moved this year from Wheeling over to Jacobs. Found, I would say, some better results. They won 3 out of 5 games, but they lost their final game to Barrington. So they're looking at a record right now, trying to get better, closer to the 500 mark, 5-8. Grant had some tough times. They went 2-3 over the tournament. They're sitting at 4-10 right now.
Well, I know Grant played all right. I think they played pretty tough where they were at. And I want to say their last game, they scored a bunch of points against, who was it? I'm trying to blank on Grant right now. But listen, this is a Grant team who's got a freshman. And there's another one. I know a freshman that's leading their way a little bit. And I really look forward to this Grant team being pretty solid in the next couple of years.
All right. The ECC Nichols Tournament in Marengo. This is a tournament that's been around for a long time. I don't know if you've ever been to the Marengo Field House out there.
I haven't.
And I have been there to this tournament before.
I always hear Marengo. I read about Marengo, but I've played against them one time in the summer. But other than that, they're a little bit of a mystery to me.
Oh, they seem to have great teams over there. I don't know what they do out in Marengo. I always thought it was golf out there, but there's other things to make their football program and basketball program
they're nuts.
work.
I know they're nuts about basketball over there.
Oh, yeah. They go crazy. It's a great tournament. Wakanda took 3rd place in the tournament before they got beat by the Whippers of Hampshire, who won the tournament over host Marengo in the final. But Wakanda right now, 9-3. They beat Rockford Christian 86-53 for that 3rd place game. Round Lake went 10-3. Panthers won 3 of 4, but they were stopped by Rockford Christian in the second round. By the way, Hampshire, as I mentioned, was the big winner. But I don't know. I was looking and thinking that one of these teams could have won this tournament, but maybe they're not at the level they need to be at right now. I don't know.
Well, I would tend to want to agree with you a little bit, except for, like we said, I think the Marengo team is pretty solid, and that Hampshire team, low key, is actually pretty good. I've seen some video on them. Mm-hmm. They're pretty athletic. They got some nice size, and they're junkies out there. So those the whips, the nickname, the whips,
Whippers or whips, depends if you want to say it, but
they're not too bad. They got some athletes. So I mean, I can see how they won that tournament for sure.
Yeah, they moved into the Fox Valley Conference, and
yeah, it's great for them.
It's been
we'll get a chance
they've
to
been there
more
for a number of years, but they're starting to gather. Some of the how can I say, the younger generation has moved out in that area, and it's starting to grow a bit.
You know what else? You're speaking of that, and I love talking a little bit about Fox. Not too much, but I'll talk about a little bit of them. But Burlington Central actually moved into. Remember, they were in that conference, and they were beating up on the Woodstocks and the whatnots out there. But they moved into the Fox, which was just a huge upgrade, and I think they're holding their own pretty well. We played them last year. It's a solid program.
Yeah, a growing area there too as well. A few other tournaments to go through at Effingham. Antioch, a record of 4-5. They were playing mainly smaller schools, I noticed, but they were able to win one game in the group of games that they played there. And hopefully Tim Bowen will get that team going. That team's been up and down right now. I think it's a learning process that's going on there for the Sequoias. We'll see what goes on into the new year. By the way, Grace Lake North, if you notice, we didn't bring them up because they didn't play a game at all during the holiday break. They've been doing this for the last few years of not playing a holiday tournament. And they just sit at home, and then they come back, and they're going to play Prairie Ridge, which is going to be this Saturday. In fact, we'll be doing that game here on WRLR, starting at 1 o'clock with the pregame, and then the tip will be at 1:30.
Well, that's our rule. Even if they didn't play, we're still going to talk about them. So I'm glad you're able to say something about them. I think they'd be heavy. I think they're heavy favorites in that Prairie Ridge game.
Now, I know you guys don't normally hit the girls, but with all these tournaments, we're going to try to hit on a few of these if we can before we have to leave here at the top of the hour. And I got to mention Lake Forest, the way they're playing right now. They beat powerful Bennett on Saturday and will play in the title game tonight at Montini. And this is a prestigious tournament. There's some great teams among the state that are playing there. They're going to take on Evanston, and that game will be going on at 8:15. Lake Zurich was playing the Consolation Championship against Loyola this afternoon. But you had Montini and Bennett going down in the semifinals. That surprised me in a tournament like this, Fidel. I mean, you're talking about quality teams here on the girls' side. I know you don't follow them as much as you do on the boys'. Also, the Carmody Classic at Dundee Crown, another great tournament. Stevenson lost to Maine West in the semifinal on Saturday night. They're going to take on Lake Park at 6:30 tonight. State champion Maine West is taking on Maine South. Central Suburban Conference rivals against one another. But Maine West will probably have the edge in this one. Of course, they had a 44-game winning streak stopped by Montini earlier this year. I mean, that's incredible the way they're playing basketball.
Yeah, those are incredible. And it seems like Maine West has done a great job of bouncing back and starting up that streak all over again. So
now they give a lot of credit to the passing of Daryl Kipp, and Damone, the coach over there, does a great job. I know the assistant coach there, Lance Newman, he's added so much for defense on that team.
Yeah, on the boys' side, that program's been dead for a while, and in the last couple of years, they've actually been pretty solid. But I know for the girls, it's kind of been a powerhouse for a long time. So it's nice to see that on both ends, the boys and the girls, they're pretty successful.
A couple other tournaments on the girls. Carmel won the title at Dixon on Saturday night. What's their record now? Are they 13-2? Is that right? Or 13-3? Somewhere in that area.
I want to say 12-2.
Or 12-2 in that
Something
range.
Like that,
okay,
yeah.
they're doing a great job.
Yeah,
Still young,
great.
though. Sullivan and Wood, sophomore, freshman, big girls, kind of like the Twin Towers to deal with. But.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to have Coach Berg on in the past. It was last week, and he mentioned about their youth, and it's been a kind of a learning process, but there's no doubt in my mind that this team is going to continue to get better and better and better. And if if Coach Berg, who's done a fantastic job of bringing back the Carmel girls team into a successful program, but I think if he can get them playing their best basketball at the end of the season, I think he's going to be in good shape.
All right, at Libertyville, we did broadcast the championship game last Thursday. Don Johnson, Norm, Miriam, myself were out there. Libertyville won the title. They beat Cary Grove 54-23. They outscored them 22-3 in the second quarter. Of course, it was the day after Christmas. You know what kind of basketball you're going to get out there. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm really impressed with the freshman Emily Fisher. Keep an eye on her. Right? Someone told me, hey, this team can go a full distance this year with her on board now that she's starting to play. She had a back injury and kept her out for the beginning part of the season. I'm not sure if they can go the distance, but I will say they will battle with Lake Forest, Stevenson, and Lake Zurich for the top, and even Zion Benton for that matter, too. Also, I want to mention at Grant Deerfield, they won the holiday tournament over in the Northern Illinois Classic. And at Grace Lake Central, or I should say Grace Lake Central tonight at St. Viator, is taking on host St. Viator for the championship there. And I got a chance to see him win the other night over Zion Benton. A really good game because you got Kate Bowman, who's going to Illinois State, going against, I forgot her name, Sullivan or Callahan, I'm sorry, Morgan Callahan for Zion Benton, who's going to North Carolina Central A&T. And there was a battle between both of these big girls. And foul trouble got to play in both situations, but Grays Lake Central took advantage in the second half to win the game.
You know, there's been so many good, talented players come out of Lake County on the girls' side over the last, 10, 15 years. I remember when I first came and started coaching, those Warren teams were rolling with Sarah Booth, and she had, it'd be her versus the Warren team versus that Wheeling team. It seemed like every single time for the sectional. And I remember one time Mundelein hosted a sectional. It was between Warren and Sarah Booth's team versus one of those Wheeling teams that was just unbelievable. But these girls can play. I mean, and they play a style. A lot of these girls that are Division I, they play an entertaining style that's worth going out and watching.
All right, assistant coach from Carmel, Fidel Garcia. Very entertaining hour. Why does it go by so fast? I don't understand that. All this information just went by quickly.
I think it has to do with when you're talking, time flies. So
time flies. You're having fun, right?
I think we could probably do this for 3 hours, maybe, right?
Yeah, we could do that. Hey, by the way, Happy New Year, Coach.
Thank you very much. Same to you, Russ.
Everybody be safe. Have a safe New Year. And there's more basketball to come. Lake County Sports Scoop. Carson back next week. I'm Rusty Silver. So long, everybody.
You're listening to 98.3 FM, WRLR LP, Round Lake, Illinois.
Cornicchione's New York-style pizzeria in Antioch at routes 83 and 173 is another proud sponsor of WRLR Sports. Cornicchione's pizza dough is made from scratch using a family recipe that originated in Brooklyn, New York. Their dough is proofed at least 24 hours. Cornicchione's menu includes pizzas, calzones, pasta, much more. They have dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. Their number is 224-308-1499.
When I'm under, I'm weightless, floating away, and all I think about is doing it again.
Michael Swan is under the influence of his volunteer swim coach. Spending a little time coaching, he helps Michael stay off drugs. Be a coach, a mentor, a volunteer. No matter what it is, you have something to offer. Log on to helpyourcommunity.org or call 877-KIDS-313 and be an influence on the kids in your community. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Today's sports broadcast is made possible by O'Keefe, Lewis, and Bruno PC. Proud to sponsor another season of Lake County High School sports broadcasts on WRLR 98.3 FM. Helping home buyers, sellers, and others with real estate transactions.